That might be recommended.
Yeah, it's like normally when I have my big screen, I'm sitting back farther and I don't need them. But now that I'm up
Oh.
close,
All right, we got 4 seconds. So I'll go ahead and share my screen.
all right, what I'll do.
All right. Hello, everybody. Please, when you start joining, please feel free to put chat and where you're coming from. And we've seen a lot of people from all over the world joining us so far of day 2 of Demo Fest. So really excited to get going. I'm seeing a bunch of people joining in now. So let's kick this off. Um, so I am a huge fan of this topic, and I'm betting if by the end you will be too, if you're not already familiar with it. But thanks for joining the session of Why and How Interactive Demo Technology Will Change You and your buyer's life with David Yackelson. And I'm Lindsay Doherty. I am the AE, and I will be moderating this session for you all today. So um, I know some of you may have seen this before, but if this is your first session, just a little bit about DemoFest. It is presented by Consensus. Consensus is leading the world in the new era of demo automation. So our platform gets your buyers what they need when they need it. Then that multiplies your revenues team impact with unique insights on those buyers. So as a result, you'll see faster close times, larger deals, and higher close rates. And who wouldn't want some of that? So you can learn more at goconsensus.com or view the automated micro demo at the link in the Docs tab on the right of your screen. Just a few housekeeping items here. Of course, and David agrees, we encourage you to participate in today's session. So on the right side of your console, you can see a few ways to engage throughout. The chat function will allow you to engage with us as well as other attendees. Throughout the session, you may see a few polls, so we encourage you to participate as your feedback is important to us. Our speaker will be taking questions from the audience at the end of the session, but please make sure to ask during the session as well. So if the question pops in your head, go to the Q&A, make sure you write it down, and we'll be sure to have David answer it towards the end here. If at any time you're having technical difficulties, head to the gear on the bottom of your screen, and there you will see a help document to help troubleshoot common issues. And finally, I'd like to introduce our speaker. You could put his experience on one of those scrolls because he's done everything, been anywhere, but the condensed version is David has over 30 years of experience in the B2B information technology world in executive, management, and practitioner roles that have focused or incorporated product and technical marketing, corporate development and strategy, field enablement, product evangelism, product management, and strategic technology influencer services. David's current focal points are product-led growth and value related to designing products, marketing, selling, and creating customer success programs that address the ways customers articulate and determine value. And with that, I will turn the rest over to you, David.
Lindsay, thank you so much. And that was an incredible amount of stuff that I can't even believe I accomplished or am part of. But thank you. I'm really excited about the opportunity to speak here. And if I can get my slides running, which hopefully now you will see in one brief second. If you can confirm that things are A-OK, we will press ahead. All right, well, hopefully we're looking at the title of the presentation once again. And this is a really, really fun topic and space. Before I get into it, even after that lengthy background that makes me sound incredibly old, let me simplify what my perspective on this is and why I'm so excited about this topic. So think of me as a go-to-market person. My job, and I work for Gartner, My job is help tech companies get to market. And as part of that, like Lindsay said, I work with them on product-led growth motions, on sales-led growth motions, and where they meet in the middle at hybrid, which is where I think most companies end up. And as part of all of those motions and all of those strategies and tactics and so on, we all have to deal, and our tech vendors have to deal with customers and buyers. And if we look at the sorts of things that we try to make our buyers do, and that many vendors ask of their buyers, they try to fit them into their selling motions. And so in order to ultimately try to close a deal with a buyer or a buying team or buying committee or whatever you want to, however you want to recognize that, vendors ask a lot. They want to qualify the buyer. They put them through discovery. They make them go through the handoffs as part of that typical top-down motion. And there may have been cold outreach that is so cold it doesn't recognize often who that customer is and aspects about them and so on. And it's also often the case, and I know I was trained this way over several of those decades of working in marketing and associated with sales, that hey, we don't show the demo until that buyer understands the value that we're offering. And so the buyer doesn't get to see the product, maybe for weeks, maybe for months, but it takes an awful long time. And unfortunately, that's not the way that buyers want to work these days. And I'm certain that many of you have heard the statistics about how buyers don't want to talk to sellers, at least not right away, not up front, that buyers want to do their own research, and that they spend a maximum of about 17% of their time with a vendor organization or with a seller. And so, like it says here, the buyer just wants to get out of the way and get a look at, does your product or offering do what they need? Is it going to solve their problem? And so we know that, right? There's data. And how many of you also, in light of that, or sort of the analog to this from the vendor side, and I've heard this, I don't know how many zillion times, that if we could, when we show the prospect our product, when they see it, we win the deal. So showing them the value of what you offer in terms of the product that you offer is paramount. And yet, what do we all do? I look at lots and lots and lots of websites. I do many, many website reviews across every category of technology and even sometimes outside technology. And what is it that we ask of buyers? We tell them, schedule a demo, get a demo, contact us, call sales, ask for a meeting. My favorite one is the one in the middle, the request your free demo. Of course it's free. Okay, that's my own personal angst with all of this, but again, we get the buyer enticed, or the user of a given product, could be user, could be buyer, but we get them enticed, we get them to the website, and then we try to address what they want exactly the opposite way that they want to be addressed. A colleague of mine in a presentation I heard yesterday said, what we want to be able to do is to meet buyers where they want to be met. And when we do this on our website, we're 180 degrees in the opposite direction. Now, let's say that our buyer gets over that hurdle and runs that gauntlet, and after whatever amount of time, they actually get shown a demonstration. Here's an actual real quote from a B2B buyer. They happen to be from a financial services company, as you can see there. And what they said was, yeah, there are lots of vendors that say that they do what we want done. And we start looking, and what, even when we finally get to the demo, it didn't do what we wanted. And so there's so much time wasted on both sides of that equation. On the vendor side, doing that scheduling and trying to get through and get the right people and set up the demo and all that sort of stuff. And on the buyer side as well. And even after all that, sometimes it doesn't work out. It would have been nice if they could have seen what was offered much earlier in the process. So, we know we want to give demos. We have to give demos. We want to show buyers and users the value that we can bring to them. And you ask yourself a question, well, how many would you like to be able to give at any given time? Well, right
Hey,
now,
David.
yeah,
So sorry, your screen is not moving. Just wanted to let
it's
you
not.
know.
Uh-oh.
We
That's a
have the
problem.
blank, yeah, we have the blank and yet buyers see ...
Okay. Let's see.
Just want
T
to give you a
Tell
heads
me
up.
what. Let me. I'll tell you what. I'm going to stop sharing for a second,
Okay, no worries.
and I'm going to reshare, and hopefully, I'm going to share on one screen later or two screens later.
We're just
Sorry,
keeping
folks.
everybody in suspense. So
Technical difficulties. They can send a man to the moon, and yet can't get PowerPoint to work when we want. Let's see. Okay, let's try this now. Now, are you seeing the how many demos would you like to offer at once screen? That's blank.
not yet. It doesn't. Oh, it's coming up.
Okay.
Now we see how many demos. Yeah, would you like
Yeah.
to offer at once? Yep,
Okay,
and that's
awesome.
blank.
And one more test I'm going to ask before we go on. Do you now see the number 1?
Yes, we do.
Okay, awesome. So we're back in action. All right, so let's rewind. Let's rewind it back just a little couple of seconds. So the question I pose here on the slide, given that we want to show everybody our value and show off our products, and we know that when we show the products we want, well, how many demos would you like to offer at once? Well, now we're kind of limited. It's a 1-to-1 kind of a ratio. If you're going to do a live demo, it's a person. Sure, it may be one to many people, but there's an SDR or a BDR or an AE or a pre-sales, whomever, and that audience. What you'd like to be, wouldn't it be nice though if you said, darn the resources, we want to give as many as are needed, as many as our buyers would like to have. That's nirvana from a demo provisioning perspective. Now, if we want to give successful demos, what actually has to be physically there, or logically and physically there? Well, we have the person that's going to give the demo, and we have the technology of the demo itself. So whatever application it is, whatever environment it has to be in, is the internet hooked up and connected? As we can see today, we're doing this live broadcast, and I've had all sorts of fun issues trying to give a presentation. Well, imagine, as I'm sure every one of you has been in this situation, as I have been, you've got to spin up a production version of an application, make sure it is has the right data in it, and it has to work. And if you're sitting in a hotel in Las Vegas right now, like I am, chances are it's going to fail. And I can tell you horror stories of watching vendor major announcement, our new awesome Gen AI amazing capability stuff with demos that failed not once but twice. And so right now the requirement typically is I've got to have I've got to have a person, I've got to have the system, and it's got to all work. And it's not the best. So I am here to tell you that the world of interactive demonstration, which some people also call demo automation, you may hear me use these terms interchangeably. For me, they mean the same thing. Never mind nuances for a second, but whatever you want to call it, interactive demo automation, it changes everything about how you show off the value of what you have to your buyers and how your buyers are going to interact with you. And there are two reasons why this is true. One is that this technology that we're going to be talking about allows demos to be treated just like content, just like a document that you put on the website, let somebody download, let them look at. It becomes as easy as making that available. And importantly, demos become intent data sources. We'll talk a little bit later about the relationship of this technology and the benefit of this technology for a product-led growth motion. But one of the major benefits of product-led is if you're doing it right, when people are using a product, you get their telemetry, you get their engagement, so you get data about what they're doing. Well, guess what? Interactive demos let you collect data that's a lot like that. So, imagine the benefit to not only the marketing team, but to the sales team of if you have prospective buyers that are clicking on and walking through a product tour or a demo, and you know what they did. Wow, what a great way to have a much warmer outreach. So these two elements changed the way that we can think about how to create, how to provision, how to share, and how to do demonstrations. But there's a lot more to it. So now, so that was a really long setup, and again, forgive me for the PowerPoint little issues, but now we're going to get to the real meat of it. So that was the warm up. Let's talk about first, what is it we're talking about here? When I say interactive demo application, what the heck do I mean? Our graphics team worked overtime here to give you this fun little quick tiny representation of what an interactive demo is, and sort of as you might be able to tell or infer from this screen, it is a replica of an application. And just in longhand, I won't read it exactly, but interactive demo applications, also known as demo automation, let you create easily customizable substitutes for a live product. We'll talk about how you do it and the methods of creation in a little bit, but it basically lets you create something that looks exactly like your real product, and in some cases works just like your real product, but it's a lot easier, and there's no risk of, or incredibly infinitesimal risk of, failure for this. And notice another thing here. I say substitutes for live product demonstrations and production product experiences. So, at the heart of this is we want to show off our products to our prospects and our prospective buyers and customers and so on. And we want to give them this product experience. And it turns out there are lots of ways to do it. So let's look at what's at the heart of this technology space. And this is not going to be a deep technical discussion. Feel free to ask questions that we'll try to address later on. But I want to give you an overview of how, at a high level, this technology works. And one of the first things to know is that there are lots of ways, at least 5 that you can see here, and then there are kind of derivative or slightly different methods that are related to these. But there are a bunch of ways to create these product experiences. And I'm going to continue to use this term product experience also because there's a range of product experiences that you want to be able to provide to your buyers depending upon where they are in their buying process, and even sometimes who they are. Are they a technical buyer or are they not? But we'll talk more about that. But on the way to creating an interactive demo or selecting and thinking about the products that fit in this space, there are 5 high-level ways to do it. You can use interactive video. You can capture screens one by one and then stitch them together. You can capture or clone the HTML or CSS, basically the front end of your application, and sometimes catch the back end calls and whatnot, so you can have a more high fidelity representation of your application. You can have a sandbox that works, acts, looks just like your actual product, but it's not production, it's not a live instance, and it can be filled with synthetic or dummy data, which is an important thing as well here. And then there are products that provide an overlay to a production application, and what they're doing is they're allowing basically a customized front end to be applied and synthetic data to be applied to the live application. And those front end components are, again, typically easily changeable, or at least easier to change than going and recrafting an application and trying to spin it up and enter data and all of that. So there are different ways of going about this. Yes, there's also products that focus on API-centric products, or sorry, demo automation, interactive demo products that allow you to demo APIs, which is kind of a fun thing too. So there are a lot of different ways to do this, and I promise I'll explain why I'm telling you this and why it's relevant. But for right now, what's the benefit of all of these? It's speed. So you go through a process where you're capturing the screens, or you're capturing the essence of your application. Think of it that way. You're making customizations, perhaps tuning it to a particular account. In some cases, putting in variables that will change with the screens. You may be adding synthetic data, like I talked about, so you customize it, and then you make it available. And you can make them available by embedding them on your website, by sending a URL as part of an email campaign, or you can give them live, but they're available. And the major thing is that this doesn't take a long time. Now, yes, some products take longer to get to value or to generate the interactive demo than others do, but it's always faster than trying to craft it from scratch with a real application. I'm going to give you a few examples, and I'll try to go slowly through this because I know that the screen doesn't paint that quickly, but I'll give you an example, and I can't give you the example of giving them live because that's not what we're doing here, but in terms of what they look like if you were to come across them on the web. So here's an example, and it's a demo that Zendesk uses. And what are the things that you can see on the screen? So in the background, in shadow, is the Zendesk application, and in front of it, there's a window that's been opened, and this box on the right is guidance. So what you can do with these products is not only have the spoofed version of your application, but you can guide people through what you want them to see and what's going on. And in that guidance, you get the opportunity to highlight what makes you good, what differentiates you, and what's happening on these screens that you want people to walk away with. Similarly, here's another example, and this happens to be from an Atlassian. I think it's a demo of Jira. Yes, it is. And you can also see kind of the helpful message with a hotspot. So part of the benefit of these is you're guiding people to show them what important things and what differentiated things are happening in your application, but you're doing it with a realistic version of the application itself, and there are different levels of fidelity based on how you create and capture your information. And importantly, you're letting the buyer do that at their own pace. So some of you might be thinking as you look at these examples, and I'm just going to cursor through a little bit. And by the way, here's another Atlassian example with this, because I know this happens to be a consensus version. The last Atlassian one happened to be an arcade built demo. But you may be asking yourself, well, this looks a lot like video. I mean, I can take a video of a demo and show it, and why is this stuff so great? Well, a few things. One is videos are harder to create. They are ultimately more expensive to create and change. And change is a big piece of this. Interactive demos are much easier to change when your product changes than the video is, because you have to go and re-record the entire video. If you do video well, as I said, it can be pretty expensive. And then the other thing is, remember we talked about demos are content and demos are intent data sources. Well, with a video, I can know, did somebody watch it? Did somebody watch the whole thing? But I don't know much else. This example that you see here happens to be an example of Pendo's set of product tours. And as you can see, they have 8 product tours. When you have more than one of these, and imagine, I'm a buyer coming, I'm trying to figure out, is Pendo the right thing for me because I'm interested in product analytics and in-app messaging and engagement analytics and all of that. And when I step through maybe 3 of these, just imagine the wealth of data that I now have as a marketer or as a seller, with which I can come back and then talk to the person that stepped through the demo. And again, you can't do that with video. So those are some examples. I've been using or talking to the benefits for marketing and alluding to the benefits for sales. And I'll show you some numbers in a little bit that I think are hopefully going to impress you even more than my babbling about how wonderful it is. But this technology is versatile in terms of the numbers of use cases it supports, or the number of scenarios that you can use it for. And you can tell I'm really I'm an unabridged fanboy of this technology, in which almost it's a hammer in almost every situation is a nail. But I'm telling you that when I speak with clients, and they're coming to me and they're saying, gee, our sales cycle takes too long. How can we make it faster? Or people are getting stuck in the middle of the funnel. What can I give them to make that go faster? Or I wish I could be PLG. We'll talk more about that in a second. But I wish I could be PLG, but my product's too complicated. What can I do? And so there are so many use cases that this technology supports. So it doesn't matter whether you're on the sales side, and what you want to be able to do is to, very quickly whip up a demo to show somebody live, but without the risk that goes with trying to spin up a production application. Or you have to demonstrate complex products that may have more than one application, maybe their API to something else, they're doing calls or getting data. That's really hard to do and risky to make work in a live situation. So those are some use cases. From the marketing side, there's a lot of it at top of funnel, but part of a campaign. Talk more about PLG in a moment. But think about product managers. Hey, we want to show off new features, but we're not really ready to show off the actual live application. Or even, I have a Figma diagram of what we think the thing is going to look like. Well, guess what? You can take the Figma diagrams, feed them through a lot of these products, and whammo, you now have an interactive demo based on the Figma design, which is pretty cool. Customer success is becoming a bigger and bigger user of this capability as well, to educate their customers and to introduce sometimes new products, or introduce other products that they may want their customers to purchase as a cross-sell or for expansion. So lots of different ways to use them. So let's focus in on the majority use cases. So when my phone rings off the hook about this, it's typically coming at me from the sales side or the marketing side, or both. So let's look at that a little bit as we go through the next couple of slides here. So I've teased you a few times relative to product-led growth, but I'm here to tell you it really doesn't matter what your go-to-market strategy is. Your product-led, your sales-led, your hybrid, your channel-led, your customer. There's lots of led growth motions. Doesn't matter. But let's talk about PLG, and I guess just a little bit of history. I got interested in and became aware of this technology as part of all the research I had been doing on PLG. This is maybe 3 years ago. As I was looking at a product-led go-to-market, I kept running into this issue of some of the things you see here on the left, that while PLG is fun and exciting, it has limitations. Not every product or not every product audience combination can survive or succeed in a self-serve motion, for a variety of different reasons. Sometimes products are just too complex to show somebody value in a 2-week free trial, or they require integration or data input that a prospective buyer might judge too risky to do in a free trial or a freemium offer or something like that. So the product audience combinations don't always work. With free trials, there's a problem that people always think they have more time than they do. So you've got a 2-week free trial, you get to day 13, I haven't done anything, whoops, and now what? I have to go back to do it again. And so there are a number of, and we could have a whole 2-hour conversation about how to do PLG right, but there are lots of reasons why you should have a substitute for the free offer. And just parenthetically, a lot of people, when they hear PLG, think I have to give away free software. Well, this technology allows me not to do that all the time, or at least to augment that if I want, with an interactive demonstration, perhaps as a preview to what's going to happen in a free trial. But if I do have a product-led motion, and that's what I was just suggesting here, that one of the challenges that we see is that many vendors don't offer that trial or the freemium product the right way. They don't explain what the user is going to be able to do, or maybe they're not good at getting across what the product is going to do or its benefits or things like that. And so about 30% of people that show up to possibly start a trial or freemium offer abandon or run away. So how many 100,000 SaaS products are there? 30% of them aren't looking at these offers. So this technology becomes a way to like it says here, entice people, but get them more ready to take part in that free offer or trial, whatever it is. But it also helps keep engagement levels up within the trials as a way to educate and guide and so on. And so, from my perspective, it doesn't really matter if you're sales-led, if you're product-led, but especially if you're sales-led. There are so many categories where a self-serve model or motion don't really work well. A number of the subcategories in security or ERP applications or so on and so forth. If you have those products, there is every reason and incentive to look at interactive demo as a way to shorten the circuit, get somebody to look at your product. Now, when we look at who is doing this writ large, and by the way, this data comes from a couple of different sources. There's a vendor in this space called Novatic. They do a study every year among their customer base. And some of the data comes from them. There's data that you'll see here and again a little bit later from a company called Hockey Stack, which is a revenue intelligence company. And there's data that we produce at Gartner also. There's a ton of data out there in the market as well. And all of it jives. All of it is saying pretty much this same thing, which is if you look at all SaaS companies, roughly 30% are using some form of interactive demonstration. And as I said, it kind of jives with what I see anecdotally and what our own data tells us, which is roughly 30% of vendors are using products like these. Another 30% are about to or considering products like these. And there's still another 30% that aren't doing anything yet. Now that's all of SaaS. When we look at companies with sales-led growth motions, it's a puny, measly 11%. So all of you that are watching this that are in companies where your sellers are the first entities that buyers interact with, and you have a lot of angst about creating and producing and provisioning demos, get on it. There's only 11% of you in sales led that are using this technology, and it should be many more. So let's build on that a little bit more here, and let's talk more about how this technology is used across the buying process. And this is, I'm not going to say that I invented this way of thinking, that there are numerous vendors in this market that are saying kind of the same thing, but it's been a little bit of a bad pun. It's been a little bit of a journey to get here, because many of, or rather I'd say over the first maybe couple of years of this technology, vendors were pretty much siloed and focused. We're either going after marketing or going after sales. And my job is, I have a few jobs, but one of them is to be a buyer advocate. And so, what I think we have to do is put ourselves in the seat and in the shoes of our buyers and think, well, there's a buying process, there's a buying journey, and a lot of things happen in it. And as buyers, if we want to touch and feel and see the value of a product, then we want to be able to do that early and often, and in whatever situation is necessary to allow me to get the buying job done that I have to do. More on that in a second. So there's 4 basic steps to think about as you think about what products, or more broadly, what sort of product experiences and demos do you want to provide to that buying audience. So the first step is, take a look at your go-to-market. Are you product-led? Are you sales-led? Are you hybrid? Or to translate a little bit, what, as part of that go-to-market motion, how can you best and most easily and most quickly show off your product and what it does? And what sort of product experience does it look like? Is it a live demo? Is it something you can embed on your website? Is it a sandbox for a technical buying audience where they really want to be hands-on to it? Or is it all of those? So that's question 1. Second 2 is, again, the audience. So you can make an argument that the various methods of creating these demos hook up to or link to the not only the buying job but the audience. So a higher level person in an organization or somebody that's less technical might relate better to video, or might relate to the kind of screen capture step through kind of a demo, because it's enough for them. But a more technical audience, excuse me, wants more hands-on. So the other end of the spectrum, something like a sandbox or an overlay, something like that, may be more appropriate for them. But it forces you to take a look at, okay, what sort of experience do I want? What are the demo types that support that? And how do I make that work? And then how are they delivered? So do we want people to access this on the website? And I'm going to make the argument that every website should have this, and I'll explain more about that in a second. But is it there? Is it part of a campaign? Is it live? Is it whatever? And That's a key part of the decision. And then you can think about which vendor or vendors fit the bills appropriately. And I'll talk a little bit more about the decision process and what else goes into it. But I give you this in part because, and I think that there was a speaker that I had tuned into for a moment right before me who was talking about, gee, organizations are siloed, and you've got to get the example marketing function to talk to the sales function, say, what do you need? Here's what we're doing. Can this help you as well? That sort of stuff. Well, same sort of thing. This technology works well, and it tends to spread or want to be spread very quickly once it's been implemented. So it behooves you to think ahead a little bit and talk to the other functions that might benefit from it, particularly when we look at this kind of a picture, which is the buying jobs, or all of the different buying jobs that are part of a buying process, and how we want to support them with these different interactive demo types or product experiences. So let me sketch this out, and I'll talk to it while it's painting for you. The first thing to understand is, the buying process is not linear. A lot of people think about it simply as that light blue line across the top. Somebody's aware, they discover, they consider, they evaluate. But buyers don't work that way. Buyers are herky-jerky. Buyers repeat steps. So we've identified, and this is other research that Gartner's done in past, but we've identified 6 buying jobs that occur over the course of making a buying decision. And the fun part, in quotes, is that these steps, the top 4, are repeated 80% of the time. So they go back, so it's a very chaotic sort of environment. And by the way, buyers are getting worse at buying. So we have that to look forward to. As buying teams have diversified in terms of their makeup, so it's not just technical people, it's business people, it's finance people, it's all sorts of folks that are part of the process. Not all of them can say yes, but a bunch of them can say no. But they're worse at buying than they used to be. So it's kind of incumbent on you to help them through this process the right way. And one of the ways to do that is make sure they can understand the value of what you're offering, both in terms of showing it to them and telling it to them. So what you see here are all the different ways that this technology can be applied across the different steps in the buying process. And then the thing to remember is at the bottom here, the wonderful thing is that you're collecting data. When somebody is going through a demo embedded on a website, when somebody shares a demo that was sent to them as part of an outreach campaign, who saw it, what friend they sent it to you. So you're identifying people on the buying team, which tours and what clicks and all that sort of stuff. You can embed forms in this technology, so you can get even better first-person data. So people are fond of talking about signals that are collected these days so that we can improve the efficacy of the selling effort. Well, this is one great way to collect them. And so what this technology does, in part, and I suggested earlier that the promise is that, we don't have to have this one-to-one ratio anymore, it's infinite to infinite. I often talk about this technology as being a force multiplier for sales. And it's sort of funny, in my mind, and you can probably read this post on LinkedIn. I spend way too much of my life on LinkedIn posting stuff about this technology and PLG and value and stuff. But one of the recent posts was, it's sort of interesting, at least to me, that the use cases that we consider marketing use cases, for example, embedding a demo on a website, it's kind of a sales use case in disguise, because what we're doing is we are taking the burden off the SDR or the BDR or the account exec or pre-sales person, or whoever that person is that would have had to schedule a demo with one or more buyers and have an application ready and have it, to some degree customized, all that sort of stuff that can take weeks, can take months. And even then, you've got the one-to-one shot at it now, because I can embed them on the website and send them out. It's infinite. It's infinite. And even if you're doing the live demos, we'll talk about this benefit in a moment, but that's still a situation where you've got one person and an audience. So that's still one-to-one, but getting to that demo is much faster, much easier, much less resource intensive, and easier to customize and change. So those are the benefits. Let's quantify that a little bit more here. So if we look at things from the marketing side and the sales side, and we talk about how good and what's the efficacy of this technology. So numbers from many different sources, and just so you know, the sources that I get these numbers from are conversations I have with clients that just willingly post about this stuff because they're excited about it on LinkedIn and elsewhere, from vendor case studies, from conversations with vendors as well as from third parties, and I'll show you some of that again in a second. But all the data comes up the same pretty much. And so from the marketing side, what we see is that conversions, getting somebody to the next step, are 10x better than if I didn't have an interactive demo. A 450% lift in free trial signups. So remember the people that abandon free trials? Well, guess what? Maybe they won't do that anymore when you put this technology in front of it. And a 28% reduction. And I've heard 28% in one case. I've heard 33% in another case of customer acquisition cost. That's pretty good ROI. On the sales side, 36% of leads of folks that took an interactive demo and became a lead became qualified opportunities. So one of the benefits of this technology is it allows people to self-qualify. And this is not me saying that SDRs and BDRs are yesterday's news and dead and all this other stuff. I think their jobs change markedly as a result of a whole variety of things, whether it's PLG or Gen AI or combinations thereof. But things become much easier for them, and they get to have much better conversations with people that have stepped through one or more demos or product tours. Close rates increase by twice as much, and deal velocity increases. And again, I've heard an array of high numbers here. This one particular instance was that it was a 33% increase in deal velocity, i.e. the sales cycle shrinks. So that, and then from a pre-sales perspective, it's labor savings, it's resource savings. It's so often the case that there's this many pre-sales people and there are these many AEs, and everybody can't support everyone, and everyone can't give the demos that need to get done. So this helps that. But even when they do have to be live and you do have that one-on-one situation, it's a huge time savings on preparing the demo because it's already created and it's not live. There's no risk. There's cost savings on having to provision demo tenants and having the resources associated with that. And that acronym that I made up, sorry, is time to POC. Even this technology will not likely eliminate POCs. I'm not under that false impression. It's possible, but I don't think it's very likely. But what it will do, and it has done, is decrease the amount of time it takes to get to the POC, because you can get a lot of those kind of entry-level, introductory, even to a degree customized demos out of the way that much more easily. I mentioned third-party data. I had mentioned Hockey Stack before. I have zero relationship with Hockey Stack, but they happen to have done a study on interactive demos, as luck would have it, and their numbers look like the numbers that I see everywhere else. So 1.5x times better MQL to SQL conversion rate, and deals get closed 23% faster. So this is amazing. It's incredible. Life is great. Everybody's life has changed. It's a panacea, but not everything is perfect. So let's talk for a second about what can go wrong with these sorts of demos. So what I can tell you is it is predominantly not the applications and the technology that go wrong or fail. The technology, for the most part, works, and it works pretty well. Where we've seen slip-ups just on the technology front is, and I think this is decreasing in numbers of instances, are if you have an application that has really weird, complicated, or old scripts, or using old technology to do the front end. Sometimes it may not get picked up if you're doing the cloning or HTML capture sort of thing. But even that, I haven't heard occurring, given multiple revisions of products. So even that isn't really an issue. So what typically can go wrong is more. This is more like the George Costanza. It's not you, it's me. It's the demo that gets created. So sometimes when people create these interactive demos or tours, they're too mysterious. They're not guided correctly, or another problem is that they're way too long. So there's a right number of steps for these. If you're doing a website embedded product tour, it's probably 10 to 15 steps. Could be a little bit less. It probably shouldn't be more than that. And remember, you're guiding people, you're telling them a story. You have an opportunity to story tell while they see exactly how your application works and how it delivers them value. So don't be mysterious about it. Guide them the right way, say the right thing, but don't make it egregiously long. And for heaven's sake, don't gate the demo. Now, I know that is it's going to drive some people nuts. It drives a lot of marketing people nuts. But generally speaking, I'm against gating most things. Unless it's content that you paid for and they can't get elsewhere, like a Gartner Magic Quadrant. Side joke, but not too much of a joke. But there are things that you can gate. In my view, this is not one of them. I don't think you want to gate an entry into the demo. There are many more creative ways to get the information about that visitor after they've gone into it. Now, never say never. I showed you the example of Pendo before that has 8 product tours on their screen. They gate somebody on the way in. So somebody has to give their email address, then they get access to all the tours. They can do whatever they want. Many more vendors don't gate at all at the front end of it, but they'll ask a question later on, or they'll have them fill out a form. Or one of the things that's happening in this market lately is there's a lot of enrichment that's being added. There are partnerships with Clearbit and Warmly, and other folks to help ferret out who that visitor is, and more information about them in the account. All right, we're almost done here, but I'm going to give you one more set of information, and that is, holy moly, if you've fallen in love, hopefully with this technology, or you already were, either because of or in spite of this presentation, you want to go now do something about it. Let's go find a product. Well, it's a busy, evolving, fun, crazy market. And there are roughly 30 providers that offer some kind of product experience, interactive demo automation capability. And spoiler, I'm not naming them here. We don't have enough time, and there's not enough space on a screen. Happy to talk offline instead, or that sort of thing. But there's a lot of providers out there. So how do you pick one? At a high level, let's look at some characteristics that will create an initial kind of separation. And so this is a young market. Some vendors have been around. Consensus has been, I think, 12 or 13 years at this point. There's one other one that's been around maybe a little bit longer, but most of them are pretty new. This is a technology that's evolved over the last 3 years. So you want to understand, are they stable? They're all privately held. So are they stable? Are they funded? What's their customer base like? Am I like their other customers? Some of the vendors are focused very much on startup companies. Other vendors are focused very much on enterprise companies. So can they handle either the volume or the demands that kind of customer is going to demand of them? Second, what are the demo creation methods that I want to use to create the range of demos or experiences or interactive demos that I want? And the guidance that I would offer here is more is better. And what I mean by that is not necessarily that you have to have one of each of these. Now, one of the things that's going on in the market is more vendors are adding more capability. So we're going to have sets of vendors that allow you to create these in a variety of different ways. But not everybody has everything. So, to some degree, you have to lock in on, given what I want to accomplish and given the buying job or the scenario I have, which is the right method or which are the right methods. And then when you do that, and you're still going to have a set of vendors that sound alike, you're going to look at, well, how easy and fast is it? Ease and speed come to the top in almost every decision that I've been part of. It's not the be all and end all, but it's really, really important to folks that this doesn't take a lot of time and effort. what are the analytics they provide that they collect, and how can you take advantage of those to drive your leads and opportunities better? What integrations do they have? So on the marketing side, it's to CRM, it's marketing automation software. Increasingly, like I said, we've got integrations with enrichment and de-anonymization capabilities and so on. Do they support multiple use cases? And are they helping you close deals? So one of the other things that's happened in this market is there's more support for sales performance, i.e. which sellers, which pre-sales people are using which demos in which accounts, and which ones are closing and which ones are not as a result of that. So sort of an attribution kind of a thing. We're going to help this. We had a market guide last year. Our new one is going to be out in about a month, so look forward to that. The good news also is that a lot of the vendors offer freemium. So, in good old PLG mode, you can try a number of these products at absolutely zero risk. And, let's face it, this is not ERP implementation. So even if you bought one and paid for it, trying it out is not that risky other than what you paid for it. But, what I encourage everyone is, take a freemium offer, try it out, see, what it looks like and how it works. What's going on futures-wise in this market? A number of different things. I don't think there's any presentation anywhere that doesn't mention generative AI, and I'm here to fulfill that. So Gen AI is pervading this space as well. How is it being used? It's being used for translations. It's being used in some cases to create Gen AI avatars that speak different languages. In some cases, it's generating demo scripts. But I think one of the more important uses is for generating synthetic data. So if I have a sandbox, if I have a demo that I need to change a whole bunch of times for different vertical markets, different audiences, I got to fill it with something. And so using Gen AI to create that anonymized, non-PII synthetic data is a big opportunity, and we see the vendors stepping on that. There's more and more team capability, more and more demo center capability, as it's called by a number of the vendors. So that Pendo example that has the 8 product tours, you're going to see more of that. Why? Because it allows you to collect more data about your visitors. Also, the team functions allow you to manage and collaborate better on the demos that are being created and shared among your sellers, pre-sales people, and so on. As I said, we're going to have more multimodal platforms, vendors that allow you to create and capture in a broader set of methods, and pricing is going to evolve. It's been going up and down, let's say. So the ability to create a screen capture interactive demo costs you $42.50 a month. There are a couple of vendors that are at that price point, and they're kind of ruining things for other people only because there's not a lot of understanding about, well, why is that method better or worse than the cloning and capture and so on. And by the way, quick answer is fidelity. If you want a more clickable, lifelike demo that can be filled with custom data, you can't do it with screen capture. But even at that level, pricing is pretty manageable. So I appreciate your listening to my fanboy shouting and yelling about interactive demo. And my final message to you is that there's no excuse. You don't have an excuse anymore to have this get a demo. And I should, by the way, sorry, I'm going to delay things a second. It is perfectly okay to offer a live demo, a human demo to someone, but don't let doing that get in the way of letting somebody see your product value. Offer it as well. Plenty of these products or plenty of demos that I see, interactive demos that I see, have CTAs in the demo that say, hey, want to start a free trial, or you want to get a real demo or talk to someone, something like that. So absolutely you can do that, but don't force people through your hokey selling process. With that, I am going to stop sharing, and I'm going to hand it back to Lindsay, who may or may not tell me we have a million questions.
We do have a million and one questions, but I know we have 6 minutes, so we'll try to get through these as best we can. We'll start with the first, which is, can we talk through HTML cloning? From Connor.
I'm sorry, can we? I misheard part of that.
It's okay. Connor Peterson asked, "Can we talk through HTML cloning?" Question mark.
Talk through. So like what is it and how does it work?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to make it very simple. You're capturing the HTML code and the CSS that is essentially the front end of the application. So there are a couple of ways that these get created, and what the user experience is like is I'm going to say almost every vendor has a Chrome extension. And in that Chrome extension, you typically get one or two different capabilities. One is capture screens. And by the way, this is for vendors that offer more than one method, but one of them is capture screens. So you can step through, or there's continuous capture, and you get screen, 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 and then they get knitted together, and you can do so on. You also sometimes have the option with some of the vendors to say, capture my application. And that's the point at which it's going to suck in the front end, basically, and create a clone of what that application looked like. The end result is that you have the front end, but you don't have the back end. So not every function is going to work. You still have to script that demo that you end up with, but it looks better. It's higher fidelity. Because it's the HTML, things actually highlight. You can enter data in fields, all that sort of stuff. So hopefully that sheds a little light.
Awesome. Chris asked, "Demo automation in PLG and down market high velocity sales makes a lot of sense. In your experience, why have SLG and enterprise SaaS companies not adopted this yet? What are the biggest gains they have to make?"
Yeah, they're afraid. So I think two reasons, and I'm being glib about it, but I see and hear this a lot. So the pushback that I often hear is, we don't want our competitors to see our actual product, or we want that thing that I told you before, which is we don't want to show them the thing until we get to talk to them and we get to tell them our value, that kind of thing. So let me dispel both of those notions. So first of all, many of the people that say our competitor is going to find out already have video demos on their website. So in some cases, I don't even know what are you talking about? That they can already see it. By the way, your competitors know what you do, so get over it. They know your pricing, they know what your application is. If they can reverse engineer it, good for them, but they got better things to do. So that's number one. Number two, what was the other one? Sorry, there was fear, and then there is, forgot my other point. It's been a long morning, not enough coffee.
No worries. We can come
there
back
was a second
to
part to that. Why
what are
don't they
the
do this?
biggest gains they have to make is the second part.
Oh yeah, well yeah. So sorry, the other one is we don't want to show them until we're ready. Well, yeah, this is not a slight on salespeople, and no offense, Lindsay,
Okay.
or other people that are listening to this. They have methods, they have practices, they have things that have gotten them to where they are, and a lot of that, and I know we have every methodology, value selling and challenger and this, and all of them say explain the value, tell the value, and wait. But buyers don't want to buy that way anymore. So there's a lot, there's education and evolution that has to happen in sales teams to say, I know we told you talk the value, but buyers don't want to wait anymore. You got to show them what you can do, and they want to see it quickly. So my mantra is show them the value and then tell them the value, which could have another hour-long talk about that.
Yeah. All right, probably last question, because we've got a minute and 20 seconds here. You mentioned buyer intent data. Please, would you explain on how you see this data informing the buyer industry in the next few years?
Forming the buyer industry. It's just to be clear, when I say buyer intent data, it is the intent that a buyer may have to buy your product. So and it goes by different names these days. So revenue data is another name, and there's a whole category of revenue intelligence and so on. But let's approach it from the perspective of account-based marketing. When we do account-based marketing, we want to know as much about those accounts that we're pursuing as possible. and there are sources of data about those accounts. We all have heard of ZoomInfo and Apollo and a variety of others. So those are typically, there's another one I can't think of. Bombora is another one. Peer review sites provide intent data. So intent data basically means we've collected some information about what this person account is doing relative to your offerings. And based on that data, we think they're more likely to buy something. So it's part of lead scoring. It's part of all of that. What this technology does is it provides another signal. I think we're off.
Yeah, it's cutting us off here. I know we could stay on here forever to answer questions, but some things to wrap up is we have live Demo Fest coming in New York City and London, so join us there. Please visit our presenters or our partners at their booths. They help us contribute and keep this event free, so we really appreciate them. And then stay tuned for your next sessions from some amazing presenters. And thank you so much, David, for your time and everybody joining.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thanks. Bye.